Everyone should be receptive to knowing that you don't know it all and you should have some coach.
And be okay with that, right? You kind of want to know it all and be like this confident thing, but you can still be confident and not know it all.
I found that everyone puts these parameters on themselves. Another trick I recently picked up was from a guy. He's like, I read 30 books a year. And like you actually read the whole things. No, I read them until I get the nugget that I'm looking for and then I move on.
I've had a lot of different mentors over the years, and I think the best thing that I've learned from it as I've been able to get older and more experienced is like understanding that a mentor is not going to be all things for you.
Welcome to another episode of the CashFlow Quest, everybody. Today, we're going to have some fun and talk about business coaching. You know, Blake and I, and we've got Tide and Ben here on a panel today. We all have kind of a little bit different experience with coaching, but we believe wholeheartedly that it has a huge impact in people's performance. And we really enjoy it. It brings a lot of fun and creativity and brings a lot of value. How
we've learned to be successful at facing uncertainty across a lot of different things, you know? So we figured we'd bring some of our tips and tricks we've learned and tools from all of our experience. And so, which one we want to go into first?
Well, I mean, I think let's kick it off with just saying like, what is business coaching? Let's like define it, right? And so like for me, business coaching is whether it's a mentor or group you can join, or, you know, we also work with a Tony Robbins coaching program called the Business Results Training, where we talk to a specific coach, you know, and there's so many different avenues I think that you can use to create this coach. But I think it just helps have somebody to go to that's knowledgeable in your space or knowledgeable about personal development with different things to kind of help you propel through whether it's personal or professional growth.
Yeah.
So
everyone should be receptive to knowing that you don't know it all and you should have some coach.
And be okay with that, right? Like it's okay not to know it all. For me, that was kind of a thing. Like, especially, I don't know if it's being a woman in business, but like you don't ever know it all. And like, that's okay. And it's okay to ask questions. I find that I build stronger relationships and learn more when you can just kind of be naive and ask questions. There's no dumb question, just ask, you know? And so I think for me, that's been kind of a paradigm shift because you kind of want to know it all and be like this confident thing, but you can still be confident and not know it all. And I think that there's just an awareness and a personal development
Humbly
that's happened.
Confident.
Yes.
I think too, what's cool about like having a coach, a mentor, a master group, whatever it is that it's a third party, you know? So it's not like me going to you, Blake, and like, you know, asking you a question that maybe is dumb or I should know. It's like you're going to somebody that's kind of outside of your group.
Your circle of people.
Right. So
totally.
So you could ask those dumb questions, or some of the times, like when we jump on, and I'll ask you guys some questions on how you guys think about it. But like sometimes when I know I have one of my weekly calls with our coach is like, God, I don't really have anything to talk about today. You know, everything's going fine. And then all of a sudden we kind of start jumping in and it's like, oh, I am so thankful that I was on that call because we untapped something that I wasn't even thinking about. And it's put me in a better state for the day and the week and got me something different to think about. Yeah. Because, you know, so much of what we do, it's just like routine, right? Like I'm talking not just us, but everyone, you're a business owner. It's like a routine. It's like, oh, I know what I need to do. I just got to go do it. But like, how are you doing those things? Like, what's your mental, how are you feeling? How are you showing up? What's the energy you're giving off to your peers, to your wife, to your kids? Yeah. Right. And so like being very like mindful and aware of just kind of like your state and the energy you're getting off. Cause I'm like the type of guy that's like, I know what I need to get done and I'm just going to get it done.
Hammer it out.
But I'll just be miserable. Yeah. Right.
Well, and I think to your point too, being a third party and listening and having those types of conversations, sometimes when you're in it, you're too close to realize the issue or potential challenge and you can't figure out why you keep running into that challenge. Yeah. Where a coach that's a third party that is removed from your kind of circle of people can view it from an outside angle, outside viewer looking in, and kind of like highlight those things for you, where it's, as our coach says, no shame, no blame. It's an opportunity for growth and an opportunity to create more awareness around this to just further improve.
All right, let me jump back because I feel like it's important. I don't think we've ever really shared the story of how we bumped into Tony Robbins, and because Jen and I over the long term have been seeking somebody that could help us not only perform at a higher level, but also chase the right goals, including fulfillment in your personal life
and create that clarity for us.
And it's kind of like, you get to a certain level and you've done this, you've done that, but it's like, okay, wait, how do I make sure I'm really taking in and enjoying every day and appreciating even the difficult times for what they are?
Yeah.
So anyways, we went to an event where Tony was just one of the headliners for a few hour segment. Right. So it wasn't like a huge paid Tony Robbins event. He just happened to be there as one of the main guys. It was Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, and Tony. And turns out it was a marketing ploy for the three of them to help their brand. And I think it's important to note too, like I have friends that are like, oh, I don't like Tony Robbins. Okay. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You pick the person that resonates with you that has material. It really doesn't matter who it is. It's just whatever and what phase of life you're in. Seek some coach that can help you perform at a higher level. So Tony Robbins really resonated with us because we're younger, we have kids, we have emotional challenges daily that are not always related to work. So you need like somebody that can coach you through every aspect of life, making sure you don't wreck your marriage when you work too hard, and over prioritize your professional life and leave your family behind. And now you wake up 10 years from now and you're upset that you have screwed up your family.
And you have all these regrets.
So so Jen and I are both crying at this Tony Robbins event, and we kind of look at each other. We enjoyed the moment. We enjoyed the time together with a bunch of awesome people. The other thing is you meet such amazing people.
You do.
In large quantities too.
Yeah.
Like it's like everyone at these events is so amazing in their own little game that they play or their family. And so then we started going to Tony Robbins events specifically because we enjoyed his energy and the teaching methodology that he rolls out. So then from there, we went to Business Mastery that he puts on. Which one did we hit? Did we go straight to Date with Destiny after that? Yeah. A couple years later, we went to Date with Destiny.
But we did some smaller ones in between.
We did some virtual trainings.
We did some virtual trainings through COVID and like that era where he was, still doing the coachings and the trainings, but it was all virtual.
I'll never forget we were in Business Mastery in February of 2020.
Yes.
And this one gal was like, I'm from Wuhan. And like, it was like literally that week kind of starting to come out. And
like
he
3
goes,
weeks later.
Like Tony's like, oh, great. Oh, cool. Winner. We have one from the ground zero. So like, then we go through that. We realize how important it is to divide and conquer. And like build the team and the whole, like you can't do everything on your own. No matter what you do, you have to build a team, whether we were talking off screen about a team of advisors and you realize that you need to humble yourself, play to your strengths, be aware of your shortcomings, and then lean into your strengths and then also building out the team to complement where you're weak.
Yeah.
And that is something you have to go find. Like, it's not going to hit you upside the head. You have to go out and seek that self-development and personal growth. And
I think really our experience going to that event with Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, and Grant Cardone, when we learned about Tony Robbins and then went to our first business mastery thing in what you were just saying, early 2020, there was where we learned about the business results training program that we have been doing since then.
And we spend a lot of money.
And I remember
doing that.
You told me, like always tells me, he's like, I'll never forget. They were pitching it and we were all like, yeah, we should do that. Yeah, we should do that. And I just got up and I was like, I'm signing us up. And I walked out and he goes, okay, we're going to try this. Jen's decided. And both of us look back and we're like, okay, that was probably one of our better decisions in coaching. We didn't realize in that moment the impact it was going to have with you and I. Hopeful. And we were hopeful.
Do what it has achieved, which is bring clarity and growth to the whole team.
Yeah.
And in a format that we're not business coaches.
No.
So for us to be the team coach is sort of not playing to our strengths. It's not what we're professional at. So we get to be offering a team coach while being in the leadership positions, but not being the coach. Mm-hmm. And that is a really important distinction, because if you build a team, you don't necessarily want to know all the personal drama or issues that a given team member is having.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge to offer that as a part of the team dynamic, to where it's a confidential, it's almost like a quasi therapist for each person on the team.
It really is. And even in previous podcasts that we've done, a guest that actually was just here, he mentioned that, to where it was he taught culture and layers of customer service to his team. And this just provides another layer of coaching to create that culture, to give them tools that they can use in challenging settings, both in their personal and professional life. And we've just chosen to have business coaches that then the team has access to, which I think even when you have an HR person, that they can go to HR and talk to them about specific personal things that might impact their work. This is just another layer that helps coach people to learn more tools, state being a big one, right?
Yeah.
In addition to the HR layer. So
unpack really quick, just where, 2020, you guys, met Tony and fell in love and all that. But today, for the listeners, explain how we use this business coaching. I mean, we have 55 employees, and then talk, maybe you can highlight Courtney, but highlight, for the business owners that are listening, are this sounds amazing. It kind of takes that responsibility off of me, and I could focus on the business and what needs to be done and delegating. But then I could have this offshoot of someone that can provide the team morale, training, culture. So just kind of explain how we use it at Comfort today and go through just some of those trainings. And
yeah.
So we have monthly team meetings or quarterly team meetings that we have everybody on. And then some of our higher echelon people within the company get private Tony training. And then we also have, we utilize coaching if we find a specific need for someone who's, in a critical component of the organization, and we want to maximize, they're dealing with some trauma. How can we help them get some life coaching? And really that's what this is. I think you can use the term business coaching and life coaching synonymously.
Yeah, I would agree.
Almost. And so ultimately, there's kind of 2 points to this, a really broad conversation of, obviously, if you run an organization, you want to have culture, which is what you as the owners, envision for your business. And the strategy is, how does your team accomplish that? Which is it's a wonderful thing. And we'll talk about this in another podcast, but more specifically from an interpersonal standpoint, the benefits of coaching, I think we all can attest to, has been huge. And I'll give the example, for myself, I'm on here and obviously have been elevated over the last few years within the company. But before, I did a lot and had a lot of, really important projects I was doing with the company. But my official title at the peak was VP. And then I moved up into head of operations, but I wasn't the chief operating officer until about 2 years ago. And I had made a junior partner position here at the company, and I was given the opportunity to have coaching. And one of the first things she helped me with, she talked through it, and I asked you guys, hey, can I talk about anything going on with my personal life and things like that? I was I wanted to make sure I wasn't wasting company money.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah. And for those of you who know me well, you know a little bit of my background story, but my mom was a Fortune 500 executive, and she got in a really bad car wreck when I was in high school, and early onset Alzheimer's and Parkinson's set in about 7 or 8 years ago. It got really bad to where I started taking care of her. Well, the company was just growing gangbusters. And while it's growing, anyone who's been on the floor of a company that starts, you wear a lot of hats. And so I was doing a lot of things at work, really busy, sometimes really stressful. And then at home on Saturdays and Sundays and in the evenings, I was going and taking care of my mom. And so one of the first things that our coach pinpointed with me was, you can't do all this. Like, you're going to burn out. Your marriage is going to suffer. You're going to have issues. And I think that we should focus on this first. And so basically within the first couple months, the directive I got from my business coaching was a personal one. And that was, we need to find full-time care for your mom. And we need to find a bookkeeper to help you manage all the paperwork, because anyone who's managed someone who's getting help from insurance and Medicare, there's all kinds of paperwork and stuff. And so that became the first directive. And once that happened, once I got over those hurdles personally, I was a lot more calm and things were helping me from a work standpoint. And then, like, I thought that was a huge and profound change in my life. And I really attribute that to Courtney, and I love her. That's one of the few people I tell at the end of my phone call, I love you, talk to you later. Like, I love my business coach through Tony Robbins. Thank you guys for that opportunity. The second thing from a business standpoint, which I think was even bigger, was once we got into that, we started just kind of talking through what I was dealing with on a day to day. And when you're trying to make a name for yourself, you'll take everything. Anytime anyone asked me for anything, the answer was yes. And I really, for a long time, did a good job. But I got to a point where I felt like I was taking everything and balls were starting to drop, right? I felt like I had my fingers in every part of our business and I wasn't doing a great job, because you can't. It's impossible. Yeah. And it took her telling me, you can't do all of this stuff. Like, you're doing too much. I was getting 300 emails a day. My phone was ringing incessantly. People called me constantly. And so we started this whole directive at the company where I literally sent out an email called communication lines. And it was like, don't talk to me about these items. Here's the person you actually should talk to about it. Here are things that I'm giving to other people. I set up a whole delegation list with her. And she told me, your full-time job should be to not do anything. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? She's like, that's going to be your full-time job. You want to delegate everything you can. And I spent a year doing that. And I feel like that was when I really caught your guys' eye from a partnership standpoint of like, this guy can elevate because he's willing to give things away in order to progress.
And then you're willing to receive training.
Yes.
Like, we had to be willing to be coached, and some people aren't.
Yeah.
And so that's like the key is, like, if you're willing to learn and grow, then there's no limit.
Well, and would you agree that, like, going through that process with Coach Courtney, it highlighted gaps in our, like, processes and procedures, because how do you delegate something, right? Or say, don't come to me for this, if there's not a good process? Like, you in your head know what to do. And as you mentioned before, like, you wore a lot of hats to get to where you are today. We all have. And I think that highlights gaps. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Well, what I would say is the gap operationally for our company's growth at that moment was me. I was the company gap.
You were the keeper of the keys and you're getting covered up.
I was the bottleneck. I remember feeling sick to my stomach when we would find out we had another deal tied up, because I felt so heavy. I felt like I could not move fast. It was slow for me to do anything.
I kind of remember that.
And it was such a enlightenment moment when it was like someone else from an exterior vantage was going, you're insane. You cannot do all of this. You are literally going to burn out. And the bottom line was, I was already burnt out and I didn't realize it. Yeah. And so having her tell me that was really a game changer. And I talked with you guys. Hey guys, I can't do this. I made lists. We brought on, I like to this day have 2 people helping from an assistant standpoint. We promoted people from within the field and delegated out. And it took a year to delegate a lot of those things. And we flourished, I feel like, operationally. Once that happened, like, we got way better in all kinds of other facets. We empowered other people in the organization to grow. And what was funny was I was doing it to get less work on my plate. And you guys looked at it as Ty just grew and you promoted me to chief operating officer. That's when that moment happened. My interest in the company grew. My responsibilities became more financial, in like looking at financials and really less like in the day-to-day flipping of houses, installing houses, doing construction projects. That became other people's job. My job became helping you guys improve, because that was a place where you're like, hey, we would love help here. And that's been a whole nother thing where I feel like we've really had some huge wins. And actually, I think I ended up finding what my calling is within the organization. I love, looking at problems and helping assist the accounting team and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
And I think having a coach too, to kind of hold your hand, right, along that. Like, it's not just somebody to be like, I think you should do this, and just kind of like dumps you. And then it's kind of like one conversation and it's done. Having those consistent coaching calls, like, that's huge growth that you just described. And so, like, there's a lot happens in that 1 year period that, that you did, and you chunk, they teach you to chunk things so you don't get overwhelmed. And to have that person to kind of like go back to and have conversations over and over helps through that process. And then they'll teach you tips and tricks of like how to chunk things or how to prioritize in this long list of tasks that you need to do. And through doing that, you learn things and have personal growth in addition to professional growth. I think we all can agree on that.
100%. Yeah. And just being completely candid, I feel like if on my own without training, if I didn't have a professional to give that advice, probably within 24 months, I would have been deemed incompetent because I would have continued taking on, not made a stand because I wouldn't have said no. I would have, and then it would have been like, gosh, Ty's really dropping balls. He's unwilling to move. We love him, but we got to let him go. Like, I mean, and you see that once you've seen the veil on the other side, you start to see like, oh, I get why that person failed or why that company failed.
Right.
I think it was American Apparel where the founder, he was famous because he gave every single person his phone number. Like any supplier, any employee could call him at any time, and it became a huge company. And the guy had total burnout. And, I think he also had some scandals, but you can't do it all.
Yeah.
And
then part of it is relinquishing responsibilities that you used to be really good at.
Yeah.
And you got to let things go because you can't do all of it.
Right.
No.
And that was the big breakthrough going to the events was, all right, we have to build a legit team.
Yeah.
Which brings in the coaching, the culture development, the whole thing of how do you grow something and you end up with a good product, a good team, and a service that we're providing to the residents, to the investors. Like it's a lot to it.
Doesn't Tony say it's like, if you are the company, then you don't have a company, you have a job. And I think it goes back to exactly what you just said.
Yeah. He has another saying that always resonates with me, which is, because I think he owns 50 companies. And so he talks about that a lot. Like, I've got 50 companies and X amount of employees. Right now, someone is fucking up. Right now, someone is. And when you're growing in growth mode in a company, your thought is no one can be messing up. Everything has to be perfect. Everything I do is perfect. Everyone around me is perfect.
It's not reality.
And once you realize that that's just not the case and you can't do it all, and you start to pass some of that and start to roll with, okay, what happened? Let's fix it. How do we do this? How do we, learning lesson. Once you have that realization, it's really liberating. I mean, it's like weight being taken off of you once you have that shift in thought.
But Ben, you've had, switching gears a little bit here to like mentors in the space, and you've had professional mentors through college and your networking groups through USD. Tell us a little bit about kind of what that looks like and what opportunities that kind of has provided and clarity.
I've had a lot of different mentors over the years. And I think the best thing that I've learned from it as I've been able to get older and more experienced is like looking back, like what would be the advice I'd give somebody if like they don't have a mentors or they're looking for their first ones is understanding that a mentor is not going to be all things for you. Right. And so finding people that you want to model, which Blake kind of always talks to, like on it, that's really good at one like specific thing that you want to get better at.
Yes.
Then you build that relationship with them and you start to ask them those good questions that shows them that you're actually willing to learn and you're not wasting their time and you're coming prepared and trying to drive value back to them. Everyone likes to talk about themselves. So even if you're going out to lunch with someone or coffee and you're asking them about their career or something you want to get better at, they're going to be more willing to talk and open up the like kimono with you because they remember what it was like when they were in your shoes. And then, so I've thought about like mentorship as really building up like a board of advisors or like a board of directors, where it's like, you know, someone that I really look up to for like relationship, career, just kind of maybe more grounds me when I'm kind of going off the wall and I'm stressed, and kind of puts me back in my place. Maybe a spiritual mentor that, you know, I can go to when I'm, you know, looking to, you know, to dive deeper into faith or understand, you know, how this ties back to the broader picture of things. And those mentors, you know, it's so funny when you call somebody a mentor, they really just become friends, right? And so maybe what it starts off, you don't have this relationship, you reach out over a cold email, or you have somebody put you in touch, and you get a cup of coffee or lunch, and you always kind of follow up with them and do that over time. And then you just become friends with this person. And then over time, you know, you could have a mentor, and then you could have someone who is more of like a stakeholder. So someone that really is going to like put their neck out, like introduce you to people, get you to that next step of your career. Yes. Right. But you have to earn that. And then, you know, I've had mentors that I've known for a really long time that I went to, like, you know, like Heather Loomis, who's been on the podcast. You know, I went to her when I was thinking about leaving BlackRock to go to business school. And, you know, and I just looked up to her. She was just someone that I kind of idolized, and I just got time with her, and I was asking her a very specific question like that I wanted to get her input on. And I'll never forget, she's like, fuck business school. Like, why don't you go do that here and pick up the phone? And she's a very unique person. Not everyone, you're not going to have that kind of interaction every time on the go around. And then I landed my job within BlackRock, pivoting horizontally into the private equity real estate group. But then that person, we just became friends, and now she's an investor with us, and she's an advocate, and, you know, we hang out with her and so forth. So they evolve over time. So it's, I guess if I could just say, you know, sum up everything I just said, it's like, it's not a transactional kind of relationship. Yeah. You're really trying to find someone that you kind of look up to, and you're trying to build a relationship, but it needs to come from a place that you want to learn from. And you're going to try to they're going to give you a ton of value, but you need to give them value back. You need to write them a handwritten thank you card, or show up, be there on time, do the other things. Connect
them to people who you think might help them in some shape or form. Yeah.
And then, over time, mentorship is something that I think is critical for anyone who wants to live a better life or progress in a career, because to Blake and your point, like we don't know it all. So go to the path that's already been traveled and talk to them, and maybe they can give you some tips along the way so you avoid some of the downfalls,
mistakes that they maybe made that they could highlight and coach you and teach you about.
The blueprint.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Model success. Just model success.
Yeah.
Because like if somebody's super successful but divorced and doesn't have a good relationship with their kids, in my opinion, I'm not going to model them.
Correct.
Because they did something that I don't align with. Somewhere along the line, they over prioritized a portion of their life, and so you got to choose your mentors wisely, and or the people that you want to model. Yeah,
and then even just put a different spin on it. Maybe they built an amazing business, but they just they just lost sight of that piece. So maybe you kind of model what they did in their business if they did something amazing, and that's it, right? Yeah. And then you find someone that has both the crazy business but the amazing family where the kids love them, and they have you see the good intimate relationship with their spouse. And so you can pick and choose as well.
Kind of to your point, like the board of directors, like function of mentorship.
Yeah. And I think too, like with mentors as well, where as I've gotten older in like my career, like really good to bounce ideas off of. Yeah. Even I've had mentors that have given me advice and I didn't go with it, meaning I told them what I was going to do. And they said, I don't know if I want to do that. But at least I had some guardrails up to just understand that side. And I was more confident in whatever, I had my own kind of conviction over here. But without that, it's like, it's a good way to just have guardrails and talk to somebody. Cause otherwise there's another Tony one. If you're in your head, you're dead. Right. Yeah. Otherwise you're just having a mental conversation with yourself that can just spin out of control.
And to that point, when you have a mentor and you explain to them your idea and they're going to give you feedback, whether they agree or don't. Yeah. It highlights their opinion to where you're like, oh yeah, like, okay, I don't know that I would agree with your whole opinion, but I like that one piece. Yes. And you can like tweak what you're going to do.
Find your blind spots.
A little bit and find your blind spots and kind of play within certain kind of, I call it the chess game, right? Like if you're trying to pick things out, you can maybe make a different play slightly, but not change the whole thing just because of what they're saying. So it gives you perspective from other people and highlights certain things.
And if you're choosing someone that is some type of professional advisor, you're getting it from someone who's dedicated their life to that. And so you're getting like a larger breadth of knowledge in that than what you would have, right? They dedicated their time. You know, I don't want to talk too much about my mom, but something that was interesting that happened with me was, as my mom got sicker and sicker, I actually started having people reaching out to me who were my mom's basically board of directors that she had set up. She had a family therapist that she was meeting with in private, talking about some of the things she was dealing with. She had a CPA, she had an attorney, she had a financial advisor that had a full plan. And this was something that she had worked on for about 5 years when it ended up coming to me. And as things got even worse, you know, I started communicating with third-party fiduciaries if anything was to happen to me, who was going to take care of my mom, who was going to make sure the bills got paid and all that kind of stuff. And I remember I was interviewing fiduciaries and kind of telling the story. And I got on the phone with a lady. And after I kind of walked her through what I was going through, she goes, I talk to people doing what you're doing in this situation all day, every day. And you are more, your mom was more prepared than 99% of the people I talk to. It's unbelievable. You're really lucky. And I took that as, when you build this strong, like even if something was to happen to you, I'm sure your mentors would probably reach out to your family and help them. Right? You build this kind of legacy, and just this mentorship, it runs deep. I think that becomes a deep bond. And
I think people enjoy helping people, you know, and sharing knowledge and experiences that they've had to try to help people not make their same mistakes or add value in any way they can. We all try to do that. And I think it's just human nature to try to, you know, help people.
Well, and the people on the let's say the professional side of the mentorship, you know, the people that have quote unquote made it, the reason why you're seeking their mentorship, there aren't that many people willing to listen and learn legitimately.
Correct. That's such a good point.
So
like, how do you be a good mentee?
Yes.
Right? That is, because I know when people
show up, and be receptive.
Yeah.
And come with an open mind and look at it from a different angles. Yeah. And have perspectives.
Have you ever had a conversation, Blake, where, you know, and I know you meet with a lot of young people too, and where, you know, you're talking to them and you're giving them, like, you know, this is gold. Like if someone was laying out this information,
I give gold all the time.
You know what I mean? and sometimes you feel like, and you never hear back from them, or it fell on deaf ears. Yeah. And then you kind of start to be like, you know what? That was 45 minutes, an hour of my time that I value a lot. And I just, I'm not going to pick up that phone call again or do that again because I didn't hear back from the person ever. Right. Or two, it's sometimes it's important to like be a good mentee so you can
100%.
continue. Yeah.
I had a guy that reached out. It was like a friend of a friend, really was interested in what we do in a similar, you know, vein of real estate, this and that. He reached out. I called him back, and I called him back. I was like going to chat with him for half an hour probably. And I was going to try to help him. Well, he gets some call while we're talking and says, hey, sorry, I'm gonna have to call you right back. Okay. Never calls me back. Wow. So then sorry, he did eventually 2 or 3 months later calls me back.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
And you're not going to take that call now.
I'm like, bro, I don't have time for you.
No.
Yeah.
You know, like.
That's where, you know, I think we all are kind of geared a little bit similar, but like I really try to find people now that reach out to me and want to get time, that want to help themselves, because those are the people that I can grab a hold of and guide. Yes. But if you're not going to put in the work,
exactly.
It's like, to me, it's like you have so much more stuff you need to be working on, like more stuff almost that you can't even teach, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'll even flip the script on this one. So I've had people that didn't take my calls, even though I was very persistent, and it turned into fuel for me.
Yeah.
So like they were at a level that they, honestly, they're spread thin, because I understand, like, you know, these guys that are at the peak level, they don't have time. And it wasn't like they were actually being like, no, screw this kid. No. I'm not going to talk to him. It's just they didn't have time, and there wasn't a good enough reason for them to talk to me.
Yep.
Well, those people caused me to want to push and become somebody that they could talk to.
Yeah.
That I would have enough value that I could look them in the eye and I could be a peer.
Right.
And those people, so now like on the other side of it is like some of these kids, they need, like if they ask you questions and they don't show up, well then I'm not going to make time and I'm going to intentionally give you fire.
God, that's such a good point.
It
I can
is.
relate to that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's like, yeah, you want to work so hard because you're like, I want to be in these rooms. I want to be looked at as a peer and not some kid.
So you have to earn it.
You have to earn it.
And that you can't just get that. Like, all right, man, you get like the one freebie. Correct.
But if you
screw up the freebie, then it's you're in the fire, babe.
Yeah. And it's like, and too, like just some other good advice. It's like, if you find out if you're going to like, if I'm going to have a meeting with you, Blake, it's like, and I'm a young kid, it's like, okay, look at everything that Blake's has written, anything that's out, like his company, like do your homework. So it's not like
you don't show up.
Blake, what do you do? Like, how do you, and it's like, what? I mean, this is all public, right? You could just go scrape this. Like, what questions do you have knowing everything that's out there?
You have Grok now. You have ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Well, and then it makes you wonder. Well, and then it makes you wonder, like, what are you actually here to ask me?
We
like
$26,000 for Rich Dad Poor Dad seminars, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you guys get it for free.
Exactly.
It's honestly almost too easy now to get the stuff.
Yep.
The information. Oh, yeah. The internet made things really easy. And then now all the AI and Grok and ChatGPT.
Well, for the hustlers out there, be grateful because it's making softer and less motivated people.
Oh, amen.
And I feel like if you've got grit in this world and you apply yourself, you'll do it. I mean, my story with the company, like, do you remember my original offer?
I do. You're going to sweep the floors, whatever you had to do.
Hey, I'll come for free.
Yeah.
Like all I knew was I wanted to learn how to make money off real estate and have cash flow. I didn't know how to do it. And you guys did. So
well, we were learning.
We were learning.
Yeah.
Well, you guys sold it pretty good.
Thank you.
But I wanted to learn, and you guys were at a minimum doing it and had been doing it for 5 years. So it was like, I want to learn from these guys. They're doing real estate deals.
Mm-hmm.
If you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, that's how you learn to not be so dependent on a paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was, I think you read the book and you're like, I'll come work for free.
Yep.
I want to learn.
I remember I had been working for 6 months. The inspiration was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And Wayne comes down and he goes, Tide, have you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? And like, yeah, I did. That was, the inspiration. When's the last time you read it? I've been 6 months. Read it again.
Yeah.
And he did that to me a couple times. And so I think I've read it 3 or 4 times. And it was always because he would say, read it again.
Yeah.
And and he was a mentor of mine. And I spent a lot of time with him. And, for anyone listening who's been inspired and maybe you've come across us right now because you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, read it again.
Yeah.
And look out for people that can help you. And maybe you don't need a business coach. Maybe you need the right book, whatever it is. Focus on growing yourself and being a better version of you.
Well, and I think
I have a perfect quote that I pulled up and I forgot about it. So it's Jim Rohn's quote. So Jim Rohn was Tony Robbins' original coach.
Yes.
And so it's a quote that stuck with me. And there's so many cool historic Jim Rohn YouTube audio recordings that are
so great.
Gold.
Yeah.
But it's income seldom exceeds personal development. And it's like, it's that simple. Like if you aren't where you're at, it's like, well, then you need to develop yourself more. And
if you aren't where you want to be, you need to develop yourself to get there. Grow yourself to then provide more value for somebody.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm not making it. I'm not making as much as I want. I'm not hitting my goals. It was like, well, what have you done?
Right.
Have you read a book?
Yeah. Have you read a book again? Because as you grow, you hear different things.
How many
That's
books
why
have you read?
Yeah.
It's just like now like audiobooks too. Like I say the difference is the people that actually press play.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you don't have to physically read it. I'm horrible at physically reading. I fall asleep.
Me too. But in your car, audiobooks are like genius.
I can read
They work for
books
me.
in the car. I mean, how amazing is that?
And you drive around, you crush 20 minutes there, half an hour there, even if it's 10 minutes.
And then I've found that everyone puts these parameters on themselves. So like another trick I've recently picked up was from a guy. He's like, oh, I read 30 books a year. And I'm like, really? Like you actually read the whole things. No, I read them until I get the nugget that I'm looking for, and then I move on.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
And it just kind of like everyone's really hard on themselves, right? Like, oh, well, I started this book, so I have to finish this book before I go to the next one. Well, like you can do it that way. But there's no rules to personal growth.
No, and you can always go back to that book that you didn't finish.
3 or 4 going at the same time and click play on the one that is interesting to you right now because you need that.
Or in the moment, however you're feeling or whatever's happening that day, a book might resonate a little bit better. So have a few.
And throw 3 Musketeers in there every once in a while.
Yeah.
Have some fun.
I like The Count of Monte Cristo. That was a good one.
That's a great book.
One other thing too is like, because I think just to like kind of round it out is like the in-person training. So for me, you guys sent me to Unleash the Power Within back in November in New Jersey. And we were buying another house, all this stuff, business to grow. But like,
and I remember you were like, I said, hey, we want you to go to this. And you were like, okay. And you weren't thrilled. And you were just a little unsure. I'm calling you out right now.
4 days, New Jersey, and
baby. Your wife, baby. There was a lot of dynamics there. But I think that you sell the experience now. It was different and you got more out of it than you anticipated.
Yeah. And I think anyone really, when you're like, because now I sell the experience to a bunch of friends and people. I'm like, hey, you need to go to like a UPW or a Tony event. And I think it really kind of quickly re-gears you. Gets you back on track because no matter how well, like, I always joke, like I was raised on self-help books like that because I had no mentors, as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid, I had nobody I could lean on or anything like that. And so I just dove into reading.
Ben was in the barrio.
And so I just dove into reading. I just became obsessed with self-help books. And to this day, I still read a ton of them, but regardless, and we always chat about this. I was like, dude, I was way, we always joke like I was way more well-read like 5-10 years ago because that's all I did was just read. But then you kind of, it's like, okay, I got that. And you kind of get on with life and then you fall off track. Yeah. Right. And you're like, God, I just don't have that momentum, and it's like, where is that? Where was I back when everything, I was crushing everything. I was busier than I ever was, but I was accomplishing more than I ever have. Yeah. And I feel like when you get into those moments, you got to kind of get re-geared. And like going and immersing yourself for 3-4 days in one of those events totally re-gears you and gets you back on track. And then the one thing that was really powerful for me doing that experience, which you will never get from a book or speaking with a mentor, was one of these exercises that he does called the Dickinson process. It's pretty intense, but he basically, you go and find your, limiting belief that if someone asked me like, what's your limiting belief? I would have, never got to where I got to going through this exercise over hours and hours. Tony tees it up perfectly. I mean, you're exhausted. It's like 11 o'clock at night.
Crazy.
You've been in there for 12 hours, haven't eaten barely.
Which is part of the plan. They want you to.
They want to break you down. And you got to that point and then you just and then pumps you right back up again. But getting to that point really changed the trajectory of my life. I wouldn't even say like career, but like of my life, because I kind of got down to that point and realized it was truth. Like it was truth. I mean, I was crying. It was intense, but I think that like that was one of those aha moments for me where it was like, wow, like that limiting belief is bullshit, and never have thought about it ever again, even subconsciously. And it really changed kind of who I am. Thank you guys for sending me to that, but it was something I would have never, when you called me, I'm like, oh fuck,
I gotta go to this.
They're sending me to the cult.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna drink the Kool-Aid.
How amazing is the people and the energy and like it's like, and you can't do that. So I've tried the virtual.
Yeah,
it's not the same.
If you physically cannot go for one reason or another, like, we all have like babies coming and like, we're in that phase of life, which makes it more difficult to travel. But like at some point you just have to go.
Because the energy that you actually can feel, like I never really understood it until I was in that room with thousands of people. And you can feel the energy, and
it teaches you like, oh, I'm so tired. Like I can get into state really quick. If I got to turn it on for a second, I had a crazy deal of stuff going on. You learn these tools, right? Okay, I can get in state, boom, turn it on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because your body. I was like, I remember one of the concerns I was talking to you about. I was like, So you sit in a conference, in a stadium
for
12 hours.
For 4 days.
For 4 days.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, this is going to be hell.
Yeah.
But I had a blast the whole time. And it's
you're on
crazy.
this like high.
Yeah. You're on a high.
So everyone, so as we're going through this and we're in the talking about this.
Also, this is not a paid Tony commercial.
No, it's not.
Honestly,
we just love
we're
it.
paying Tony tribute because we really, he's been hugely, influential on our lives. We're also trying to get him as a client, so we'll see. But, everyone and kids, like I'm going through Date with Destiny. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could have been here at 14.
Yeah.
15, 16,
And
pick a teenage awkward moment, but before you're probably 18, if you could go, there were some people that had their kids there that were, capable of taking it in.
Which
I think that's
so
the age
cool.
threshold, that you should target. It is baseline knowledge that everyone should learn. Like it's unbelievable. The emotional intelligence that you gather from just understanding how people work.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And the people and the friendships and that you create that while you're there kind of all going through it. It's unreal.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
But I think just to wrap it up, I found a stat that said, 70% of people perform better in both their personal and professional life with some sort of coaching. And I just think that we all have had experience with that, and would anybody who has an open mind and a willingness to improve themselves in some shape or form to grow needs a coach or needs a mentor to kind of bounce ideas off of or talk through things that isn't within your circle, like we said. So anybody's listening, go find, there's so many groups. A girl that I love to follow, obviously big billionaire, Sarah Blakely, she says, in every community, there is a group that you can find to create these mentorships or find people where you can talk about common problems and have common threads to learn things and learn perspectives from how other people approach problems. And whether it's in your community or a school or somewhere, you can find it. The internet and ChatGPT or AI makes things so easy to find things today that she goes, you really don't have any excuse not to find a group if you're actually wanting to find one. So
and be a yes man. Go. It doesn't, there's not one size fits all. So if you guys if you take one coaching call and you don't really resonate, try another one.
Yeah.
Just keep moving.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Cheers to the adventures ahead, guys.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining another panel. We really enjoyed it. The CashFlow Quest. We're on a big quest to just continuous growth, and progress equals happiness. So let's do it.
Till next time, guys.
See ya.
See you, everyone.